Hello and welcome everyone to another Foreman community demo. During the demo, feel free to ask questions, seek clarification, or give any feedback on anything you see here today. If you've any questions while we're live, I will ask them to the person who is demoing. Everyone who has come here today is hoping that you might have some thoughts on their work, so don't be shy. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write to us on the Foreman on LibreChat or here on the YouTube live chat also. And as we're also live, knowing my track record, things can sometimes go awry. So if you are experiencing, for example, excessive buffering or the sound goes or something else new to me happens, just please drop me a message on the live chat or on IRC and let me know. Every time I think that I have seen it all, I learn something new. So just please do tell me. So before we begin, as usual, we just have a few short announcements. So on the release side, as you probably are aware by now, Katello 4.3 is with us finally. And I was glad to see so much enthusiasm around this release. And a big thanks to all of you in the community who have upgraded quickly and told us about your experience so far. I won't dwell too much on this release announcement because if you remember last time, Chris gave us a fairly comprehensive tour of the highlights of this release. So if you want to listen back to that, just go to the opening section of the previous community demo. It's time-stamped, so it should be easy to find. And I've also added the changelog for Katello 4.3 to the video description here on this YouTube video. So check it out and look at our community discourse if you want more information about the release. As well as this, the Katello 4.2.2 is released, which has a number of important bug fixes if you're still on Katello 4.2. So you can take a look at our community discourse for more information about that. And also this week, Foreman 3.1.1 was released, as well as I think was it 21 bug fixes. There is also a few features that have been picked to that release. So if you're interested, go take a look. I think what comes to mind immediately is the in the last demo, what Leosh demoed some template helpers that got in there, and there's also I think there's a few other items there. So do take a look and it's upgrade because it might be worthwhile. And other than that, so this weekend is FOSDEM. Unfortunately, well, I suppose maybe fortunately for some who wouldn't be there otherwise, it is once again online, hopefully for the last time all the same. There is one Foreman talk, so Evgeny is going to be representing Foreman on the Saturday. It's happening at 11 Central European time, which I had to correct. We have it in our Foreman event calendar. I'll drop a link once I stop talking, also to the FOSDEM event, and you can take a look there. Evgeny is going to be talking about migrating Foreman or Katello from EL7 to EL8 using, I believe it's probably pronounced LEAP. In my part of the world we'd say LEP, but I'm assuming not. LEAP or Elevate. So that talk is probably going to be quite pertinent to a lot of you. And there are currently some discussions in the community about the planning around the sunsetting of EL7 and other older versions as well. So if that's something that is of interest of you, just please go along to our community discourse and let us know what you think or add to the discussion as you see fit. And other than that, so our first community newsletter of 2022 was published on 1st of February, so Tuesday, I believe. So the community newsletters is a kind of a quick way of getting a digest of the previous month in the community. So if you want to look at what has been released, what we've been talking about, any kind of related conferencing, etc., just please take a look at our newsletter. I was closely supervised during the writing of this. So I'd like to thank my colleague Laura here for helping me. And I think that is everything from me for now. So let me just take a look. All looks well so far on the live stream, so we shall begin. And today, up first are two talks from Leosh. So Leosh is going to first talk to us about registration and host init config template preview. And as well as that, he's going to give a Katello talk about the change host content source. So Leosh, in your own time, please.
Okay, I'll try to share my screen. Can you see my Foreman? Looks like sharing. Okay. Yeah. Hey everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Today I'm going to talk about two things. One is feature for previewing the templates, and the second one is the content host change. So let's start with the first one. It's not kind of new feature. It's more like bug fix or improvement of the feature, because in the past, if you wanted to preview the templates, you have to always select the hosts. And the second limitation was that also you had to, the host selections was limited only to managed host. So what I did is that I updated the features. So right now, for registration templates, you don't have to actually select the host at all, because yeah, it doesn't make sense, because in this case, you render the template for the registering of the host. The host, it's not in the database yet, so you don't have to select the host at all. And for the host initial configuration templates, I removed the restriction for managed hosts. So right now you can select from any host you want. Uh, the reason why I'm mentioning it is that this is also for future developers. If we are going to like introduce new template kind, it could be useful to think that how we want to handle the preview for the new kind of the template. So yeah, that's about the previewing the templates. And now I'm going to talk about changing content source in for the Katello. So there is a new feature where you can change the content source for the host. You can go, I will show it again. If you go from all hosts, and let's select all the hosts, and here you can click on the change content source, and you'll get the form. You can see that I have some errors about ignoring hosts. That's because I selected some hosts that are not managed by Katello, so they are not registered as the content host. So it doesn't make sense, to do any updates on them. So for the rest of the hosts, I selected. Let's go and update the data. I have here this is my host, and as you can see is environment is library. So let's go and change it to, let's say, environment number 1, some content view, and yeah, let's keep the content. I don't have more content source, so let's go to change it. Yeah, so source has been changed, but now you have to update this configuration also of the host. So you have two options right now. If you have remote execution plugin, you can run invocation and the update will be done automatically, or you can just copy paste these steps and run it manually on the host. I'm too lazy for that, so I'm going to just run the invocation. Yeah. Selected the CentOS that it's managed by Katello. I'll submit, and I hope it's going to work. Yes, it's working. So if I will go back to my host and run subscription 20, you can see that the environment has been changed to environment 01, and the content view is CV01. And yeah, that's basically everything for the feature. There's the UI option. Of course, there is a API endpoint. So if users want to, they can call the API endpoint that will do basically the same thing and also render the template, so they can do the update right from the host. And Yeah, that's yeah, and forgot of course to mention that this feature is available only for users with Katello. It's not in the vanilla Foreman. And yep, that's everything from me.
So there is a question there from Jeremy. So Leash, what is content source? Is that using smart proxy from
Yeah.
which the host gets content?
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah, I forgot to mention that by the content source, I mean the smart proxy from which the host is going to get the data.
Perfect. And let me just check around the place for other questions. Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy's always good for a question. I do appreciate it. Let me check now. And I think we're safe enough. Quirin in the Libra chat asked me where one might find the community newsletter, and yeah, that's something important that I should have mentioned. So just before we go on, you can find the Foreman community newsletters published to our blog, and also I have added a link to it in the video description. So if you hit the more button just below, on this video that you're watching, you'll be able to find some links there as well. So thank you for that, Quirin. And up next is Ron. So Ron has a few things to talk to us about today. So an ongoing discussion about browser support for Foreman, and also a preview of some of the initial Puppet tab work that we were kind of. Ron, is this stuff Maria was talking about last time?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent, excellent. Over to you, Ron. Thank you.
Everyone, let me share my screen. So I will start with the browser support. I guess we will add the link to YouTube as well, but in our community post for a demo 106, you can see the link to the support discussion. Yeah, I will just share it a bit more. So basically, Internet Explorer is end of life. I think currently Microsoft doesn't support it, and officially June 15 will be the end, luckily. Also, even Google search doesn't support Internet Explorer anymore. You will get some, I didn't test it, but it seems that you will get a fallback message that Google search will not work properly. And we discussed it in the past as well. And there, as you can see, there are a lot of links here. But in the past, there were issues with some of our testing environments. We used Phantom.js. Now we use Edis Home, so it's not an issue. The suggestion here is basically to follow what Patternfly 4, a library that we rely on quite a lot. They support only the latest version. Officially, they support only the latest version of Edge, Safari, Firefox, Chrome. By the way, Edge is based on Chromium. So I guess since we use it, it makes sense to follow their support guidelines. I guess their support is not only for the latest and greatest browser, but also for a bit of recent versions. So if you have any concerns or any thoughts about it, please comment on it. And I think after phone free to branching, we could officially say, okay, that's the browser we support. It will make developers' life much easier. We could drop a bunch of libraries we don't really need. And hopefully the web experience will be much better. So please reply here. And yeah, that's about the browser support. Maybe there are questions.
I will just take a look, but I haven't seen any so far, Ron.
Cool. I guess if any, just comment on the post, and we will get back to you.
Great.
Okay, so the other topic is about the Puppet tab. Maria just showed it a few demos ago, or maybe it was even last demo. So the design is finalized, but for Foreman 3.2, we would like to add an initial Puppet tab. I just open up PR to the Foreman host reports. That's the external plugin to mcorr that will collect all the Puppet reports and Ansible reports. So as you can see, it's not fully as the design was, but we will get there, I believe, until Foreman 3.3. But for now, at least the new host page will include also some details about Puppet. If we will have time, then hopefully we could even get those collapsing cards. But for now, it will be just the initial tab, and I wanted to show you it in action. So everything is here is actually it's a mock data in the server, and the status column here is still undone, depend on another PR. But I can show you. If you click on reported at, you will go to the report page, basically as it was before. The status here will be like the total summary of all statuses. Here I just inserted some data for the page to work actually. As for keywords, if you hover on the tag, you can see which keyword that report had, and I guess we will improve it over time. Maybe something you can click on, and then it will filter for the specific tag, so you can search more quickly. And you can delete each report. Actually, the pagination here is also something we added not long ago into mcorr. So it made building the page much quicker, because all the functionality, updating URL and stuff, that's more for developers, but I think it makes the experience much better. And yeah, I guess that's for free too. That would be it. And maybe we could reuse the same code, which is pretty easy, in the Ansible tab. I don't have much data here, but we can add a sub tab here for Ansible reports, and basically filter behind the scene same report just for Ansible with the same look and feel. Yeah, that's it for now. Any questions?
Thank you, Ron. We'll just allow a moment for questions. If anybody on the meet wants to come off mute, you're also welcome. So I don't think so for now, but if you do think of something for Ron or for Leosh that went before, you can ask, and I will ask the question at the next interval. So thank you very much, Ron. So then up next is Jeremy. We move on to the Katello demos, I believe, and Jeremy is going to talk to us about the new host details tab and this with better support for links. Is it, or support better links? Is it
support
better
for better links? Yes.
Better links. Excellent.
So I will explain what that means.
Thank you.
Yeah, very short demo today. What I mean by better links is, for example, this is our new host details page. And we have this overview card that Katello contributed for installable errata. You can see here we have 15 errata, of which 9 are bug fixes. And what this new feature allows us to do is, instead of taking you to the general errata page, it takes you to this page with this filter dropdown pre-selected for you. So you can see bug fix is selected here, and all of my errata are filtered to just bug fixes. The way we do that is by using something called URL params. You can't really see it there, but it doesn't matter. We add something to the end of the URL, and that's sort of how the page understands what to do. In addition to these filter dropdowns and toggle groups, this also works with search. So I have a different tab here in which I've added a different little thing at the end of the URL, and you'll see that the search box has already been filled in for you. Right now, this works with traces, errata, packages, and repository sets. It will also work with module streams and subscriptions, which are upcoming. So that's really all I had to show you today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I'll just allow us a minute for, or a moment even, for questions. Just take a look around. And I am being pinged, but not about that. Okie doke. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for that. And I think we can move on to the next one for now, which is Justin. And Justin is going to talk to us about the speed up of content indexing.
Hello. For a while now, we've known that the content indexing in Katello was slow, unnecessarily so. There were some things that were not well optimized. Until we got to Pulp 3, or I should say when we got to Pulp 3, it sort of became obvious that that was now a big bottleneck in our syncing process, because improvements in Pulp 3 had sort of made that made the actual Pulp part of that a lot smaller. And as part of this, we also got a bug report about Postgres errors. And these errors were not actually showing up in the application in any way. But if you were looking in the Postgres logs, you would see them there. And basically, because of some concurrency happening and the same thing being synced at the same time, you could see duplicate key constraints being hit. And again, this didn't cause any sort of problem, but it was just something in the background that was kind of ugly. So as part of this, we tried to tackle both of these two birds with one stone sort of thing, as they both had the same solution, which was to use sort of a bulk insertion and updating into the database. And I'm here to kind of share those results. I'm not going to do a demo because you're unlikely to see anything you haven't seen before if you're familiar with Katello. But here we have on the before side, this is the RHEL 7 x86 64 OS. We can see that before the change, it took about 10 minutes for Pulp to do the sync. And then it took quite a bit longer to do the indexing. So that's over twice as long. So the vast majority of this was actually the indexing. And I should explain, part of the indexing is when we pull the information about the RPMs, the errata, package groups, and put them into the Foreman database. And we do that for quicker fetching of the data to display to the user. It allows us to have a consistent search, and allows us to query the data in sort of arbitrary ways that we want to do as part of Foreman and Katello. But after the change, we can see that the indexing is now much smaller. So I went from, in my testing on my virtual machine, I went from about 1700 seconds down to 106 seconds. So this is now a much smaller portion of the sync. And so initial syncs should be much slower, or much faster. If we do a follow-up sync, so imagine you sync a repo the next day and there's like one package update or something. We still see a reduction in time, but it's not quite as much. So we see from 144 seconds down to 101 seconds. So we still see some improvement, but I think at this point we're sort of hitting the limit of what we can do in Katello, and maybe what we can do overall. just because of the amount of data in, for example, the rel7 repository. I'm hoping to get this change into 4.4. It is close to merging, but it's not fully merged yet. But be on the lookout for these speed improvements coming soon. That's it.
Thank you very much, Justin. That looks great. And in terms of if you have questions for Justin, please ask now. And in the meantime, Jeremy, there was one comment from Andre, and he just said about your demo that I wish we could also fix the middle button mouse click, but it looks really good. So that is all the feedback so far.
Thank you. You know, we did fix that in the content view UI. We should fix it here too. I agree.
Excellent. Okay, doke. So let me check. No other questions, I don't think for now. But if you do, I will ask them when they come. Alrighty. So we will progress. So up next is Ryan, and Ryan is going to talk to us about the new Docker on-demand download policy.
All right, thanks. So I'm just going to show you the new, the new download policy option for Docker. So here, and I'll throw some stuff in here. And so yeah, you can see now this is in the UI. It also works in Hammer, but I'm just going to show it through the UI because I think it's more visually interesting. There's the download policy sync setting, so you can choose between immediate and on demand. This wasn't exposed to the user before; it would just default to immediate, but now you can choose on demand as well. Yeah, so I'll just sync that real quick to prove that it works. And yeah, similarly, you can also update it here. Yeah, so that's a quick demo. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Ryan. I'd say as quick as that demo was, it might be, we mightn't get so many questions about that one. So cheers, Ryan. And we can move on to Partha. So Partha, this inter-server sync UI update, is this related to the inter-server feature that you...
Jonathan.
Yeah, so it's the Jonathan one. I think we're going to have to do something about the wording because we, in the documentation even, we decided to change the, your inter-Foreman sync, shall we say. We changed that to inter-server. So now we've two inter-servers syncs. So we're gonna have to get a bit creative there with how we distinguish them when it comes to talking about it, I think. So whenever you're ready to go to give us updates on that work, Partha, please.
Sure, just a second. Yeah, it makes sense. I think we are looking to documenting this better right now. At least that's better. I think I zoomed it a bit. Can you guys see my screen?
Can see your screen. Yeah, I can see it. I'll let you know if anybody thinks it's too small. Let me know. Yeah. So you can go ahead, Partha. Thank you.
Excellent. So today I'm just going to show some interesting UI we did with regards to this confusion between inter-server sync and all that. So we used in the previous Katello, we had an import-export system, so you couldn't do any of this without using import-export. So, and I think last week Jonathan demoed pulling content from a different satellite. So he had he synced stuff from the CDN, and his second Foreman server was his downstream Foreman server was pulling from a different upstream Foreman server. It was not pulling in from the CDN. So we called it the connected sync, connected inter-server sync, to just differentiate it between disconnected and that. But we are still working on a terminology. Once the documentation comes, hopefully you guys will get more clarity. Meanwhile, what I want to show you is a couple of things we did with regards to disconnected. We added a new setting called subscription connection enabled. So you're right now able to manage connections here, like because I'm connected to CDN. But if I'm not connected to the CDN, I should not be able to do things like managing my changing my entitlements and things like that. I shouldn't be able to edit anything. So for that, there's a new setting called subscription connection enabled that you can set. Let me show you. Let me do here. It's easier to. There you go. This used to be called disconnected before. We renamed it to subscription connection enabled to make it clear what exactly it's trying to do, or what exactly it covers. That is one useful setting. And there's another setting. So this setting, the subscription connection enabled, will prevent you from updating and connecting to the portal and updating entitlements and things like that, or refreshing stuff. It won't let you connect to the portal, basically. If you had subscription connection enabled to false, it won't let you connect to the portal. I mean, but here's the other thing we did with regards to inter-server sync in the disconnected scenarios. So if I go to manage manifest, right, you see how it says it's currently connected to the CDN. That's why that's where it is right now. It's currently consuming. I have my machine here is a connected machine. It's connected to the CDN. It's not connected to a satellite or is disconnected. So right now it's saying, oh, partha is picking, kind of pulling content from CDN. Now, so I can configure it to say, hey, here's another. Sorry, let me hide the sharing. Yeah, I can configure it to say, hey, I can specify a URL. Here, you use the satellite, you use the username, pull in from the library environment. Like I could configure it there, or I could finally set up something. There's a new tab now called air gapped, so I can update to air gapped. So these are the only 3 inter-server sync scenarios that we have today. You'll either be a Red Hat, you'll either be pulling content from Red Hat CDN, you could pull content from another Foreman server, or you could be air gapped, and where you're using only the import export hammer commands to do things. So like if one of the benefits is, so if I update it to say this is an air gap downstream server, so I'm only supposed to use import export. If I go to Red Hat repositories page, I'll get a message saying, hey, your configuration is air gapped. You cannot do repository enablement or disablement on this page. You have to use the import export process basically to do that automatically. So we have a couple of banners like that, and safeguards based on your settings. Yeah, and so if I went back, for example, if I said, oh, okay, I'll just pull it from CDN. I have access to it now for some reason. You can easily go to if you go to the same page, for example, you will see that it's actually pulling in from the CDN. It shows you all the available repositories, shows you enabled and disabled repositories, enabled repositories, sorry. Yeah, that is pretty much what I had for presentation. It's just this the takeaway is this new UI where you can we can configure things from whatever upstream server you want to pull from, whatever upstream source you want to pull from.
Partha. Thank you very much. We didn't need any musical intermezzos, which is I'm a bit sad about. I don't think that immediately there are questions. I was chatting a small bit with Jonathan in the live chat about the terminology around this. I'd say all the questions will arise for you, Partha, when we go to put this on paper and explain it a little bit in the docs. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, one last check. We are good. So then we will move on to our final user-focused demo for today, which is with Andrew. And Andrew's going to talk to us about updates to the content view UI around bulk deletion of content view versions.
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, everyone. And I hope, yeah, you guys can see my screen. So I'm going to jump into my content view Billy here from the content view list page. And I'm going to take a look at a few versions that Billy has. And we now have a bulk delete option here, presuming that you have selected a few of these. We've enabled a multi-page bulk delete as well. So if there were more than 4 versions here, and there were, as you can see in my development process, you could click throughout. So if you had multiple pages, if you had 60 of these things, you could click in and multi-delete them that way. So I'll walk through what the wizard looks like, and then I'll explain some kind of intricacies around it really quickly. So I'll just delete one version as a demonstration. So here we are. I've changed kind of the messaging around this, and this is just a trial. It still has to go through a review. This is very much in development. But I'm trying to make this a little bit more clear as to what the process involves. So if you see here, it says review of affected environments. It gives you a list and shows you the associated versions and their hosts, activation keys, and environment that this would be affecting. It tells you exactly what is going to happen. Version 48 will be removed from the listed environments and will no longer be available for promotion. And I'll tell you any required steps, if any, that will appear here. So much the same. If you've deleted a version before, you will have you've seen most of this before. I've just changed a little bit of the messaging. So it does give you a table with your activation keys if you have to delete them. It lets you select another environment, in this case, Bob, and then another content view. And then it just gives you a little summary telling you exactly what is going to happen because of this change. So 2 activation keys will be assigned to content view Moon in Bob. I'm sorry for the naming. I'll probably try to do that a little bit more close to reality in the future. Same thing with hosts. You can see your affected hosts from this change and do the same thing. Select a environment. Maybe we'll choose Steve this time, and select a content view to associate it. And again, the same summary message here. And then on the review details page, we now have kind of like an overview of the effects it's going to have on the version. It'll tell you this is not going to be available anymore. The environments, this is going to be removed from these environments. 2 activation keys will be moved to content view Moon and Bob, and etc. for hosts. And then you can hit the delete button. Before I do that, though, if you notice, there are 4 actions to take here. If I go to a version with no environments, and I hit delete, you no longer have to jump through those unneeded actions, because the only thing that's required for you to know is this one thing. So now you can just hit the delete button, and hopefully that will work because I'm in a demo. I expect it to explode. Okay, great. So that was deleted very quickly. Oh, no, there we go. And now it's gone. And then if you only have like activation keys to reassign, for example, it'll also just tell you you do need to reassign some activation keys. So it'll only add the needed steps in that process for you to do that. So that's about it. Deleting versions, bulk deleting versions. Right now, there is an error if you try to bulk delete a version that's associated with a composite content view that is currently published. So I'm trying to think about creative solutions around that to make that a little bit more obvious when you're attempting to do that. Okay, that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And so far, I don't see any questions for you at this time. So this is the end of the demos that are user focused, but we have a few today actually on the Foreman developer focus side of things. So we have up first, we have Ron again, who is going to talk to us about Rails 7 and new front-end approaches, proof of concept of that he has been kind of, how shall we say, that awful word, socializing is what they say these days, isn't it? He has been sharing on the community. So Ron is going to talk to us about that now. And if you have any questions in the meantime about any of the talks, please do ask them, because there is still some time.
So hello again. This time I will try to share the whole screen. So hopefully it will work, not just the browser tab. Okay. So again, if you're interested, you can click through the demo 106 on the Rails 7 and new front-end approaches. As Melanie mentioned, I'm socializing DHH spirit with the new front-end approaches. So I shared here 2 links of 2 tutorials actually created by DHH. You could look at it. It's only about 10 minutes. One shows the using React with import maps on Rails, and the other one, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Oh, 1 second, Ron. It's interesting.
Yep.
Your screen, I can see your screen moving, but it is not coming onto the, just let me check. Yeah, your screen is not reaching the, could you try, yeah, could you try just maybe to, yeah, oh, now it is. So would you move something? Maybe. Or flip tabs, something like that. Let me just check.
Why not? I can share and let me share just the browser. Maybe it's easier.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was just sitting on the community demo, or wasn't moving.
Yeah, so let me just recap.
Thank you.
So in that post, you could see 2 links for YouTube tutorials by DHH. One shows React with import maps, a new technology that the browser actually import files instead of uploading a huge bundle. So it will import individual files, sort of lazy loading, but the other way, I believe. And this approach is really cool. Let me show you a bit the code. So last weekend I played with it a bit, based on the tutorial DHH created. You know what? Let me share actually the code. It will be, I guess it will be easier the entire screen, but let me know if it actually moves between the windows.
Will do.
So can you see the code now?
We can, thank you.
Okay. So that's it basically. You see 5 files changed after the initial Rails project generation. So I created it. You can follow the link there. It's under a rlavi. It's a React Rails import maps example. So in this example, I'm using React, and you see that there is no package.json as we used to have in, let's say, normal projects. And basically, the pin here is that in your JavaScript files, you could do import React from React, for example, and you get the library from a CDN, actually. So your browser fetches the ES module from the CDN, download it once, and as CDN works, it just store it on your browser, so you don't need to load it again. So basically, the browser does the npm install, let's say. Also, you can do shortcuts like take everything from the JavaScript components folder and make it easier to import. And I will just show you. So import something from components. And you can, the same as we do with Webpack aliasing. Yeah, so basically this is our main file that will be called from the browser. In component, and you saw it looked like a node module, the aliasing. You just call it this way. It renders the React component. Okay, and what I forgot to mention is that browsers for a long time actually read JavaScript, ES6, in fact, and it seems like I guess that in the future we will not need any compiling tool. Maybe it's, I don't know, it's too ambitious to think, but right now they read basically all JavaScript, but React that we use JSX. So there is a hack to make the component work. I guess it will be kind of painful to switch our current project Foreman and plugins to this syntax. You see, instead of using just open brackets, clock without dollar and other brackets, you need to do this stringify. But actually, the browsers now call the React. It can just read the React code, use effects, use state, and anything. But the return, because React requires compilation for that, here this hack basically switches the JSX to React.createElement. And I wish in the future React will support or browser will support JSX. Whoever will do it faster. So it was really nice. Let me show you. Hopefully you could see it, how it works. Where is my terminal? Yeah. So as I said, you don't need any build tools. So you just do Rails server starts, and yeah, let me find it. Okay, let's refresh. May the demo god be with us. Okay, so you see the clock ticking. As I said, the interval and update state on every second. And you can see in the assets pipeline where our components file are, you can just see them passed in as assets. And it's pretty cool. You can run React code in your browser. But there is a big but. When I tried to load Butterfly library, all the components that we use, it actually didn't work because there's a lot of images there and SAS. So that's the place I got stuck, but maybe someone with more Rails knowledge could overcome it. And we could actually use this cool technology. But still, I think it could be a bit painful to refactor our whole application to strings. Maybe it's possible. Maybe there could be other way, like the Rails assets or sprockets, however it's called, would do it for us. That would be really cool. But for now, I think it's kind of painful. And sorry, I'm taking all the time. The other approach that DHH showed, that if you can't really manage shift your React project into import maps, then there is a solution he recommend on EaseBuild. So basically, I created this project, React Rails EaseBuild example. This is like the main application, like Foreman. And for the example, I created blurg with the Rails example on how to create the engine plugin. And the result was really amazing, really easy. I could get all Butterfly components. So this is the main page, and this is the plugin page. And here, of course, all the SAS and everything works as expected. I can show you a bit of the code. So here, I didn't remove the hotwire and stuff that Rails give you when you initial the project. This is the build script, is build bundle, minify, source map, or you can also write it a bit cleaner. Let's go to scripts. This is the latest checkout. So for example, in the build, it can look like the same as we do with Webpack. There is code splitting, and there's also an option to watch when, same with Webpack hot reload. So you can do is build watch, and then on every change with the application JS code or one of its imports, you will get new assets. So basically, we built into assets. Let me see it. Yeah, I'm not sure here it's actually updated. You know what? Let's try to build. Let me close the import map example. And let's run. Hopefully, it will work. Of course, it didn't, because I didn't remove all of the old code. Yeah, nice example. But okay, you know what? Let me remove it from the application. Let's application. Yeah, it wasn't the best idea to check out that old commit. Let's try again. All right, it won't. Let's remove the old code. Yeah. So I think hotwire. Okay. Let's just find this file. Yeah. Let's remove these controllers. Okay, I think now it should work. Sorry that I'm jumping a lot. And we have another controllers. Yeah, this one. Now, it definitely work. Okay, that was it. You see how fast the build is. And yeah, we also requested for map files. So in development, we could see basically how the file looks in the browser. And it's built to app assets JavaScript. So now, if we do Rails, Rails server, you can see it actually live. And in this case, since we use isBuild, and you can see the code is really normal JSX without the stringify. So this could actually work with our current Foreman project and plugins without much refactoring. And I did decide to check isBuild after we kind of had trouble migrating from Webpack 3 to Webpack 5, which is the current. Webpack 3 is already deprecated, and I'm not sure how our application works today. I feel like it's really close to to die since it deprecated. But there are a few more things we're trying to solve, and of course I can't make it only by myself. Need your help from all teams, more backend, because you see most of the things I dealt with are Rails stuff, and also packaging wise. So we need help from all sides, I believe. And yeah, just you can just read it and feel free to leave comment or open issues even. Some things we would like to solve is node modules duplication between Foreman core and plugins. Nowadays, you see that Foreman installs, for example, 1.5 gigabyte node modules, and the same goes for each plugin just to work. And I think we're missing something. And also for packaging, as you can see, after I build, if I take a look on the assets, inside my application, okay, you can't really see it, but, or maybe here, I already get all of the node modules I need. So I don't think we really need to package Butterfly, React, or all other libraries again and again. Maybe the bundle we created is enough. Yeah, I think I covered it, hopefully, but if any questions, feel free to reach out or comment here on this post. So thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much. There are some comments for you in the Foreman Dev channel from Andra and from Jeremy, if you'd like to take a look. I think Evout has been answering them, so I'm not sure. Do I need to read them out? But you might want to take a look at that. So thank you very much, Ron, for this. I'm just a small bit time conscious. I did book you for an extra 5 minutes than last time, so I will proceed to the next demo if that's okay with you, Ron.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks a million. So up next is Amir, and Amir is going to talk to us about new empty page usage.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. 1 second. Okay. You should see my screen shortly. So basically, we added a small feature to the new host page. So basically, if you have some error, some 404, you have a typo at the name, the host name, you should get this kind of empty page, empty state. But we also wanted to make it generic, not just to the host page, but you can reuse it over the entire applications, including plugins. So this is the generic message. As you can see, we have just a resource not found, some generic description, and also return to the last page, which is basically a back button. But you can, of course, add your properties, and you can change the title, the description, and you can add more actions and buttons to this section. Okay, so let me show you a fuller example. Let's go to the all page, all hosts, sorry. And let's pick one. And let's change the name with a typo. And let's see what happens. So as you can see, here we have a nicer and more specific to the host page. We have no host found. we have another message from the generic one. We also have a primary button for going to all hosts, which is basically the host index page, and some secondary actions like create a host and return to the last page. So how you can reuse it in your plugin or in core easily. Let me share the code. 1 second. You should see my IDE. Hopefully you can see it now. So as you can see here, this is the host page index. And if we have an error, we return the component redirect to empty host page. So basically, let's go to see how it implemented. Yeah, the screen is really zoomed in, so it's really difficult to go and specify the specific component that I wish to go. So as you can see here, basically I'm using the redirect component from React Router DOM, and it basically just gets one property, which is 2. And you need to specify the path name, path not found, page not found, sorry. And you can also give a specific state. If you don't give a state, you will get the generic page not found as I showed you before. But if you want a more designed or more specific to your case, you can just give a state. In the state, you can have you can change basically some properties like the header and the body. You can give the primary action with a key value pair with the title and the URL. The same with the secondary actions, but in the secondary actions you can have multiple actions, and in the primary you can have only one. So in the secondary actions, basically it's just an array, the same key value, title and URL, but you can have multiple items in the secondary actions. And also we have the back, which basically renders the return to the last page secondary item. So it's just a shortcut to add going backwards to the previous page in the browser. Small feature, you can reuse it in your plugins or in core, and that's all I have to share. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me offline.
Thank you very much, Amir. So far, I have not seen any questions for you, but I will, if there are, I will pass them on. So thank you again, and thank you for your patience waiting quite late. So we are on to our final demo today, and that is with Andrew again. And Andrew is going to talk to us about VS Code development flow with extensions for React. And he's a lovely presentation and everything for us.
It is a super impressive presentation. I am a master of PPT. And you've already covered the first page for me, so thank you. So this is going to be very developer focused, and specifically like React and JavaScript focused. So all of you Ruby ninjas, you can scowl in the corner and look away. Or you can look at this, because VS Code is still somewhat useful for Ruby, just not as good as other IDEs. So I'll start by saying, like, I'm going to be talking about extensions for React with VS Code today. I'm going to treat this as if you're a baby or junior coder with VS Code. So a lot of you may roll your eyes, and that's totally fine. Okay, so if you open VS Code, first, what I'm talking about specifically is this little extensions tab here. So if you open a new window, you'll pretty much be greeted with this screen, and going here, you can punch in any of these extensions. And as you're about to see, the extension name is at the top of the page. So if you see a name here, that is going to be the extension that you're going to punch in directly. So if you were looking for that specifically, you would literally just type it in just like this. And there it is. All right, so that out of the way, I'm going to start going over some of my extensions and why they are so good, specifically for our workflow with Katello and Foreman. So if I just started the day, I'm going to talk about remote SSH first. So I'm going to have these little TLDRs. So if you do want to come back, I'll make these slides available. You can just jump through and find the one you're interested in. Just pay attention to the goodness here. So this allows you to log into your remote VM and start working like you were running on a local machine. So if you look here, I am on a Mac. I know I work at Red Hat and I'm working on a Mac. It's legal. But I do that anyway because I prefer it for JavaScript. So you can do that quite cleanly by using remote SSH and just having a remote, with CentOS 7 installed or CentOS 8, whatever your fancy is. And I can show you exactly how my workflow kind of works with that here. So just like it says, you can log into remote VM. You can choose from a list of configured hosts, and you can add an SSH key to remove a password challenge from that. So normally my day starts as I open VS Code. I want to preface this. I only use VS Code. Other than like music and VPN, VS Code is the only thing I need to do my work. I like Chrome browser maybe, but like if I just want to do code, I only need this. And I'll explain further. So I go to Remote Explorer. This is what Remote SSH gives me. And I have in this config configured a host, and you just have to define like a host and the username and a couple other things. I'm not going to open it because that would open secrets to the world. Okay, so anyway, I have one host here, and I actually have the subcategories if I wanted to get into it. And all I have to do to use this host is go into current window, and I have SSH set up, so I log in automatically. So now I'm jumping into Foreman. And there we go. Here's my file explorer for Foreman. Here's my terminal. I'm inside the Foreman directory, and I can do whatever goodness I want to do. And I'm set up for my dev environment. That was all it took. So literally turn on my computer, 10 seconds later, I'm ready to dev. No further work needed, let's say. And if I did want to like jump over to my CentOS 7 box, I could do the same thing there and just right click and do that. I do have a password challenge here, and it'll just pop up at the top of the screen if that was what you were wanting to do. I haven't actually tested this box in a while. I'm hoping it's available. Oh, it is. Yay. Okay, and I don't remember the password, so you're just going to pretend that I got in and it was perfect. Okay, so that's remote SSH, and that's like a big part of my workflow. And I kind of listed these in like kind of levels of importance. So I'll go to the next one here. ESLint and Prettier ESLint, yes, two packages. They need to be they need to be added together. And most of you know what these are if you know much about JavaScript, but it's basically opinionated auto formatting and linter correction for React and JavaScript. Now, particularly those new to JavaScript, I want to impress that these are things I really want you to have in your code, because it will auto-correct a lot of your kind of mistakes or perceived mistakes in JavaScript. So like other languages that make you do like extended if-else statements or like enclosed returns that are not necessary. And I'll get into a very brief demo of this later. This will basically auto-fix those issues for you and say like, yeah, do it this way instead. It'll also highlight it. With ESLint is basically the highlighting tool, so it'll tell you where you're going wrong. Prettier is what actually makes those corrections and fixes it. If you were installing these two things in the Katello directory specifically, do remember to change the VS Code's default configured tab size, or you will get a dancing issue. And what I mean by dancing is when you format, when you save, I highly recommend you format on save. You'll see your code shift from right to left and go from tab 2 width to 4 width to 2 width to 4 width. It's quite a funny problem to have. So I'm going to jump onto a couple of the next ones before I go into a brief demo of them combined. Next is auto import. So this is the name itself, all of this, the whole top thing here. So auto import ES6, TS, JSX, TSX. I used to be a TypeScript developer and strongly prefer it. We'll get into that. But long story short, this will auto import items for you. So as you type inside of your VS Code, it will automatically bring things in for you. So if I went here and I know everything's all red, that's wonderful ESLint. And let's say I wanted to import something called first and just pressed enter, it's going to import that for me there. So that's all that's doing is looking with this. This adds a specific thing though to the Katello and plugin directories that I want to emphasize, is that it tries really hard to understand imports that are kind of difficult for like a normal IntelliSense to understand. So for in this case, if you're looking for like here, let's try some type of settings. So select settings, use Foreman settings from, there we go. So this doesn't have a type on it. It's not passed in the plugins. So normal IntelliSense will never recognize this. So what this program has done is it's indexed your top imports from all of your files, and it's recognized that this is imported from somewhere. It doesn't know where, but it's still available. So if I try to jump into this, like it can't because it has no type. There's no reference to this in our node modules effectively. But it still allows you to make that auto import here and dramatically reduces your total dev time having to manually type that out. So that's one thing that's really good. Note it can mess up sometimes. Like as you can see here, sometimes it'll like try to pull in things and it'll pop it in the middle of other. It's quite embarrassing, but it tries. Okay. And then the last one. So JSTS import export sorter. This is more for me specifically. Not everyone needs to do this. I prefer a very opinionated sorted import list. So if you see here, there's a bunch of spaces. I'll get into this in a minute, but basically this will sort and format all of your import, and it'll auto delete your unused imports as well. Be very aware if you have a compile error, like if you just randomly went into the middle of your code and like just deleted a bunch of stuff. What's going to happen is you may lose some perceived unused imports that are below that. So if you save after you've made some kind of like ridiculous compile error in your React code, you may see a bunch of your imports disappear. And then you'll just have to go back and, you know, re-import them or Control-Z. So just be aware of that little quirk to this code. Now let's combine those in action. Oh yes, last but not least for this little demo I'm about to do, there's a couple more coming, but for this mini demo here, turbo console log. It's basically speeds up console logging. Oh, go back. It speeds up console logging quite a bit and prevents you having to write like out console log. I haven't written console.log in years, so this just helps with that. Okay, so I have this wonderful code here, and I'll go ahead and delete this. So this is like clearly the best and most beautiful code ever. And I'm gonna bring some attention to a couple of things. First, ESLint is telling me there's like some red things, places where things aren't used. That's fine. This is like, you know, semicolon missing. I have an if-else statement here, and it's highlighting its red and said unnecessary else after return. This is where I was saying, like, if you're new to JavaScript, you may try to use an if-else statement in this case, but really you don't need to. So it's actually telling you with ESLint. Yeah, and then I just have some spaces and other weird options. Here I have like an unexpected return block that's not necessary, and I'll show you the before and after in a moment here. So first, turbo console log. So I basically highlight the thing I want to console log. I have my keys set up as Command-C for me. Oh, Control-C. And boom. It'll tell you this little rocket ship, so you know it's turbo console log. It'll tell you the file it's in, the line it's at, whatever the thing is that you're doing, and then it'll actually print it out in the console for you, which is pretty cool. There is a hotkey that I don't currently have set up on this box, but it basically will delete. So if you have this here and you have like 16 others in a really long file, there's an actual like, there's a key binding to remove all of them. So it'll recognize the turbo consoles over normal consoles and remove everything for you. Okay, so I'm going to press save here, and what you're going to see happen is this is going to be sorted, and it's also going to be formatted, all the imports. Any mistakes I've made that can be automatically fixed code-wise will, and then it'll also just shift things around to be formatted as per ESLint. So let's go ahead and save. All right, wonderful. Now nothing is read. Here now there's no encasing block here. It's a direct return. Here it's a direct return. There's no else. So remove that for me. And the same thing would happen is if you did something like this. So if I was to hit save right now, you're going to see a direct return as well. So little things like this really make the code a lot cleaner. So these are like the core to my workflow. Anyway, now to go on to my next main key takeaway thing here, GitLens. Now, I'm not going to get into all features here because this gets really deep and really crazy. But GitLens and GitHub pull requests, I'll show in a minute here, but this is a massive tool that you can use in your VS Code to really help streamline quite a few use cases. So I just made a bunch of changes. Now, if I go here, I can see all of those changes. I'm not sure if GitLens is doing like this side comparison the way it is. But what I can tell you it is doing is it will show you exactly specific changes. So here I have a little thing here. It says John Mitch 2 years ago, and there's a little picture of John, if I highlight on it. If I scroll down and I actually click on his commit, I'll have an option, and I'm just showing you one of the many thousands of things this thing can do. I can reveal the commit in the sidebar. So it's going to look through the commits, find it, and there it is. Now, if I pull that up, I can see every single change that he did in that commit and like jump to the file, and it'll show me the difference between those two things. So I can go to any file and do that. Now, if, say, for example, I just didn't want to go that far, I just wanted to see what a recent change was, I could just go back and see, the history this way. That's also an option. And then when you do find it, a change that you're like, oh, why did that happen? And you wanted to ask, whoever did that, you could find that person and be like, oh, hey, Thomas, like, why did you do this? Or explain this to me, I don't understand it. It just helps a little bit with understanding different code in different areas. And it's also one of the reasons that random people get DMs from me all the time. I'm like, hey, you did this. Can you explain it to me? So yeah, that's one of the things that GitLens does. GitLens does a few other things. Well, this is all GitLens, so I'm not going to get into everything. But for example, I can look at all the branches I currently have available to me, and I can update them all. So I can pull them down. Here I see master as a change. I can pull that down here. Done. So now I'm still on my branch. I haven't moved away. But master is now updated. So now if I wanted to go to master and rebase current branch onto branch, I could literally rebase, and now my current branch is rebased to master. Oh, I can't because I made some changes. Let me delete those because those are not changes that I want to keep. Okay, so there we go. Rebase current branch on branch, done. And magic, I'm rebased, woohoo. Okay, that was it. Now, say this branch I have, I really like it. Now, if you're new to VS Code, to create a new branch, you really click here, you hit create new branch. I was on master when I created this. You can also do create new branch from. I won't get into that, but all I've done is I was from master, I went to create new branch, I entered in demo React, and that's how we got to this here. I made this wonderful change, which I'm totally going to commit to the code base. And now I want to push this up for all to see. So actually, let's make one change, and I'll just be like, instead of thing, I'll be like, yo, Jeremy. Okay, save. Okay, and now I have a change here. Now I have a change. Wait a second, I already have a commit. I only want to do one commit. How do I solve that problem? Okay, undo commit. Fixed nothing likely. Okay, so I have my commit message saved. This is good. I don't have to use it again. I'm gonna hit plus here. So it combines the staged commits. Now these are the total changes. Yes, it has the message to Jeremy. Wonderful. And then I just hit Command Enter. Now this is on my local branch. Now it goes into the GitHub pull requests and issues. Never use the GitHub browser again, or do whatever. So now I'm going to show you like what GitHub can do for you. So now I'm going to make a push to my branch, and it'll allow you to choose which branch you want to push to. In this case, I'm going to push it to mine. And it did it. And then GitHub pull request asked me, do you want to create a pull request? Yes, of course I do. Okay, there we go. And there we go. I can say I have my description that I have inherited What are the changes introduced? All of them are great. Okay, and I'll create as a draft. I don't want to really have this appear anywhere important. And I'll hit create. Okay, that's it. Now I've made my change. I've pushed it up, and I can review it. The other cool thing you can do with GitHub pull request is this. So I have opened up the GitHub tab here, and I can look at all the open pull requests there are, or I can look at ones specifically assigned to me, or waiting for my review. Oh, sorry, Partha. Or this is Chris, I guess. And then I have created by me. So the one I just made is here, and I can click on it. It's my draft one. And I can see all the changes that this made. And as you can see, I don't really need to go to GitHub ever again if I don't really want to. And I can even comment. I can be like, this is amazing stuff right here. And then add comment. Boom. And that's going to appear in GitHub just like that as well. Okay, so that's a quick overview of those. I will go over one last one, which I really like. I think that's the last one. Yeah, it is. Okay, great. Just runner. So I'm just going to jump to some random test here. Okay, and if you go down, this is all that Just Runner adds, really. It gives you the option to run your tests right here in your terminal. It'll open a secondary terminal just for those. But it'll go through and run your test for you, and it's just this one, instead of having to run the entire suite, and it's just a shortcut. You can also run the debug version of this. There's a couple other things you can change in settings to run Jest with a particular set. So if you wanted to add like --silent to all of these run tests, you could do that if you so wished. Okay, that is about it. If there's any questions, do reach out. And if you're on the Katello or Foreman teams, you can reach out directly, and I can go over any of these little functionality bits that I've given you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was fantastic. There was just one comment on the live chat from Lena, who said that this is really cool and you'll convince me to check out VS Code. So thank you very, very much for that. I think I'm wondering if this is the longest demo that I've had in my tenure so far. It probably comes close to it, if not is it. So thank you all so much for coming along today and having such interesting content to demo and to show the wider community. Thanks to everyone who showed up and watched live with us. If you're watching this back at a later stage, feel free to drop a question in the comments, but the best place is probably over on our community discourse, which is community.theforeman.org. You can find the link to that inside in the YouTube description. And we will see you all again very soon. So see you in about 3 weeks. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for your time and effort today. Cheers.